the widow of the late murdered Charlie Kirk, has revealed that comedian Jimmy Kimmel's bosses offered her to come on the show for Kimmel to apologise to her personally after his pretty foul remarks surrounding her husband's murder. Her response was pretty damn classy. If you want to say sorry to someone who's grieving, go right ahead. But if that's not in your heart, then you don't have to do it. I don't want it, and I don't need it. Adrienne, she is a class act, isn't it? This is a woman that's been, lost her husband, had to inherit his entire sort of empire of activism, and yet is having all sorts of foul things thrown at her, accusations that she's somehow the wrong kind of grieving. She wore leather trousers so she can't be heartbroken. They freeze-framed her, a picture of her hugging the Vice President, J.D. Vance, who's been a very supportive friend to her all the way through, to somehow suggest that they're having some lurid stuff. It's astonishing to see her resilience, isn't it?
It's crazy. The vitriol that she goes up against all day, every day is something I've never seen before. I think it's really showing like a deterioration of like the moral compass on a widespread scale that we've actually never seen before. And I think and we've seen AI videos of her, and for her to continue to show grace and strength and do these interviews and say these things with such grace, it's honestly, whether she wants it to be empowering for others, it is. And I can't understand why it doesn't matter what she does at this point. It doesn't matter what she does, she's doing it wrong.
Do you think it is there is a political undercurrent to this thing, or because it does strike me that it's slightly beyond the normal trolls and the sort of online hatred. It does strike me there's an angle to this stuff. Possibly not all of it domestic, possibly some sort of foreign interference, just trying to stir things up and sow division on the right.
It's interesting, definitely trying to stir things up. We also see, they come out and say that there's like 50 new chapters a day that TPUSA
Turning Point
is
USA,
opening,
yeah.
right? So I can't understand if they're trying to murk the waters and be like, this isn't really happening. Like they're not moving this forward. They're not having any success in carrying on Charlie's legacy because they're spending all their time mucking it up. But the utmost strength, and for her to say, because they asked her in the interview if she feels safe, and she said that she does. She said, what are they going to do? Kill me so that I go with my husband in heaven? And she said that not lightly, but the Christ-like way that she described, what else are they going to take from me? I mean, that's truly powerful.
Michelle Obama came out today, or this week, and said that she had it worse than any First Lady. It was never given her. The current First Lady in the White House literally nearly put her husband in the ground a year ago, a year and a half ago, during the assassination attempts. He was 2 inches, she was 1.5 inches away from losing her husband. It's slightly off the boil for Michelle Obama to make that point, right?
That's actually insane. And when does it end with Michelle Obama? And when does it end with all of this victimization? I mean, they went through Melania Trump's underwear drawer, okay? She had major fashion designers canceling her as somebody who had in the industry was a model, an international model, okay? The disrespect that she went up against has nothing to do with this fabricated narrative of victimization that Michelle Obama continues to spew.
Tim Rice, it strikes me that this is all being caught up in a slightly wider war amongst the right. I was writing at the weekend that just as the US right have control of the House, Congress, the Senate, the court, the vibes, they decide to go to civil war with each other. We discussed at some length the Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson row. It does feel to me that like the sort of future direction of Turning Point, which is obviously a massively powerful organisation for whoever's going to succeed Donald Trump, and right now it looks like it's going to be J.D. Vance who will have their backing, as he was on stage with Erika Kirk last week in Mississippi. Is Erika Kirk being am I right in perceiving that it's Erika being dragged into a pretty gutter politics battle that, is bigger than one woman?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that, her being sort of her late husband's heir apparent has obviously put her in more of a spotlight than any widow should, and mother of 2 young children who just lost their father should have to put up with.
But the fact is, she has stepped into the arena. She has stepped
and
up.
she has. And
she picked up the tools.
Very true, yes.
And that seems to be sending people around the bend.
I think, honestly, there is something extraordinary in how ordinary her response to all of this has been, right? Because, she's shown a lot of strength and a lot of grace. But also, right, what else are you going to do? You're going to carry on. You're going to seek solace in your faith. You're going to be a mother to your kids. You're going to make sure that you continue your husband's legacy. You're going to lean on the people who have been there for you and your husband and your family in good times and in bad. Erika Kirk is doing, obviously on a much grander scale that most of us can't fathom. She's doing what a normal, regular person does. And I think that is driving people batty. I think it is driving people insane that this is just an example of a woman who is just finding strength and finding courage and resolve in the places that any of us, really, in our worst moments, can find strength and courage and resolve.
The fallout from Tucker Carlson platforming Nick Fuentes, he's a pint-sized little Nazi fella. Anyway, before I get myself in trouble, no, actually, I'm going to call him a pint-sized Nazi fella because he is. He runs his mouth off like a sort of SS officer after too many sherbets. But yeah, horrible little guy. But being platformed by the mainstream, it sent obviously absolute ripples through the Conservative right. The Heritage Foundation have lost staff members, they're losing donors. This has absolutely put an absolute bomb underneath the sort of coalition that has sort of elected, that uneasy coalition of the traditional GOP right and the Maga movement. Is this about wrestling control for 2028 and beyond? What's really going on here?
I don't think it's about wrestling control for 2028. I do think it's beyond. And I think, I think that we err a lot in how we talk about this, which is, they've called themselves, the new right or the alt-right or all these different terms, right? But the fact is, people like Fuentes and the Groypers and these neo-Nazis, they're not conservatives. They're certainly not Republicans in any meaningful sense.
So why is the boss of the Heritage Foundation saying, I'm not going to criticise, I disagree with him, but he shouldn't be cancelled?
I think that there is a widespread concern on the American right, and a justifiable concern about what is happening with American young men. I think, right, it's a disaffected generation. They've been left behind.
But Charlie Kirk was a bulwark to all this absolute filth.
He was. I think that the concern to the care that some people, I think it's an example of misplaced care sometimes, right? We want to make sure that we can keep these young men in our tent so they don't go so far afield, right? So maybe, okay, if we can... You're going to have
to bring in some pretty smelly feet into the tent. Then,
and to be clear, I think it's a mistake, but I do think that's where it's coming from. It's almost like a parent who says, I acknowledge that my teenagers are going to drink on a Friday night. I just rather you do it in the house, right? Well, that's okay if they're sneaking a couple of beers out of the garage, but if they're throwing absolute ragers in your basement and then letting their friends drive home, at some point you become culpable again.
Excellent metaphor, which I will definitely going to steal for Friday's column. Thank you for that. Adrienne, let's talk about the other massive story on the right today. Sydney Sweeney had finally broken her silence in an interview with GQ magazine after that astonishing, amazing, hilarious and brilliant row over her American Eagle jeans advert. Sydney Sweeney has great jeans. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, so obviously the entire American left said it was obviously a Nazi joke and a slur. We had Donald Trump weigh into it. We had J.D. Vance weigh into it. And finally, she's broken her silence.
And now I'm going to weigh into it.
Go
there
on.
You have it. So, Sydney Sweeney is interesting. I think in the article in GQ, she did a little wink, to the MAGA movement, right? She's very
MAGA-coded.
MAGA-coded, there you go. She likes to nod to the base without giving too much. Honestly, I like her reaction. I like how she basically said, look, I work all day long. That's MAGA-coded. We are at work, okay? And so I like how she said that, I was off my phone, that's MAGA coded. But I think I love her attitude of, I didn't really care. I wanted to do it. I don't really care about the backlash, and I was at work.
She knows what she's doing, though. She turned up to that, was it the Vogue Awards last week, in quite the dress for a women's empowerment.
Yes.
It was essentially her nipples out. Like, let's not beat around the bush here.
Yep.
She's having fun, right?
She's having fun.
But even then, though, even now, even after two Trump victories, the death of woke, the corporate America ditching all the DAI stuff, rushing to sort of pivot back to the right. Even now, someone who's clearly MAGA-y-ish actress still can't publicly say, you know what? Yeah, I am. So what?
Yeah, I think it's also interesting she's dating Scooter Braun, too, because we don't know where he
We're getting into a level of detail now. My iPad battery's just died as well, so you're going to have to fill us in on that one.
I don't know where we lie with that either. Where do some of these other celebrities truly lie in the political arena? We've heard of rumors, but I think it's interesting. She likes to play in this sort of no man's land, but we all kind of know where she's nodded. But
Tim,
She knows how to play her cards.
Tim, what do you reckon? Secret MAGA codes from Sydney Sweeney.
Well, I'm going to sort of repeat myself again. I think Sydney Sweeney, I think one of the things that is extraordinary about Sydney Sweeney is that she's in a lot of ways very ordinary, right? She's obviously, she's a looker, right? She's got this blonde bombshell look. That's not ordinary. Certainly has an extraordinary career, but she definitely plays into this a little bit. Like, she knows that there are some things that make her less than ordinary, but she plays into it. I'm just a girl. I'm just working. She talks a lot about how I need to keep a job. And it's like, yeah, right.
But do you think if she did come out and say, yeah, you know what, I voted for Trump and I am a bit MAGA and, you know, fine, deal with it, she would actually lose contracts still, or have we passed that stage of American culture?
I don't know if we passed that. I think we're starting to pass that stage of American culture. I think Sydney Sweeney is one of a handful of people who would be able to do it regardless.
Yeah.
Adrienne, do you think she'd lose money, lose contracts?
You know, it's tough to say, but I like the way she plays her cards. And listen, I think at the end of the day, we're all Sydney Sweeney fans. And you know what?
Except if you're a progressive media outlet or voter in America who seems to think she's now the Antichrist.
We've seen her at the gun range too.
Well, there we go. That's, I mean, if that's not MAGA coded,
it's
then
MAGA coded.
I don't know what. Adrienne, thank you for coming here. Tim, right, as ever, always friends of the show and always welcome back.